Hey all, this is AJ, your host from the For Attorney Official YouTube channel, and I want to ask you all one question. What's wrong with this He-Man? Now, why I ask what's wrong with this He-Man is this figure, this 1987 movie-inspired figure, has received a lot of flack. Now, this Masterverse action figure began shipping to consumers the last few weeks in December 2022, but the flack it received has been there since the beginning, since its announcement this past summer, August 30th, 2022 to be specific. And this time, I'm here to offer a popular opinion that I believe the criticisms this figure has received were actually well founded. But let's begin with a major positive. This figure is very well crafted. If you take away the fact that this is a 1987 live-action movie-inspired figure and put this He-Man out on an island, it's a very well-executed deluxe figure. There is real quality here, from the soft goods cape with the intricate gold design work on the bottom, to the spectacular sculpted armor on the shoulders, his chest and his legs, to the spectacular gold paint and black wash it received. You can see mine has a little paint app mistake, looks like a splash of wash maybe, but it's not the norm or widespread. So it's generally a beautiful figure. The daggers and swords have some nice detailed work. And again, on its own, with no preconceived notion of how they're supposed to look, the face sculpts here are pretty well sculpted and painted as general heads go. So overall, if the 1987 live-action film Masters of the Universe did not exist, and this wasn't a movie-inspired figure, but just, say, a new Eternia, new interpretation of He-Man, I might be raving about it. And who knows, this could be one of my favorite figures of the year. But the fact is, this figure does not exist alone on an island. That the 1987 film does indeed exist. It's real. This figure is real. Its ties are real. And all the proper preconceived notions that come with it are real. This figure does not exist in a vacuum. So when someone buys a movie-inspired figure, the majority of consumers understandably want that figure to look like the character that was depicted in the movie in every way possible. I know I did. It's like when I bought these Super 7 figures based on the 1982 film Conan the Barbarian. I wanted these figures to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger as Conan the Barbarian and James Earl Jones as Thulsa Doom. Or more on point, when I bought these Super 7 figures of the movie He-Man and Skeletor, I wanted these figures to be good representations of what I saw in that film. I'm a diehard fan of the Masters of the Universe 1987 movie, and that is these figures' point. The more screen accurate your figure is, the better. Consumers who love the movie want it to feel like it jumped out of the screen. That's the itch you're trying to scratch for your customers when you're making these movie-based figures in the adult collectible market. So I can appreciate the criticisms, especially when it comes to the figure's head sculpts. I mean, these heads the figures come with, specifically their faces here, look nothing like He-Man portrayed by actor Dolph Lundgren, which we saw in the classic film. I mean, not even close. We've seen other figures like the NECA Rocky 40th Anniversary Ivan Drago, where they did a pretty good job with the likeness. Even the Rocky IV Jakks Collector Series was decent. And of course, this Super 7 Rebel He-Man figure did a good job, although I do personally wish they painted his eyes smaller. But I think the main sculpt here, if Mattel had just even brought the nose down a bit, decreased the gap between the nose and the top lip, it wouldn't have been great, but would have looked somewhat better and subsequently spurred less complaints, I bet. It just really feels like Mattel didn't acquire the licenses here. Not for just the likeness of Dolph Lundgren, but for the 1987 movie itself. Do you remember that McFarlane movie Maniac series for Terminator 2, where they did a T-800 Arnold figure, but McFarlane had only secured the rights to the movie itself, not Arnold's likeness. So they put all this battle damage on Arnold's face, so they didn't have to pay for the likeness. So there were two licenses in play there. Now, if you apply that to this figure, if you look at the Masterverse packaging, I don't see the Masters of the Universe movie logo, the logo used in the film, nor do I see it mention its license on the box. So I don't know either way, but perhaps it at least kind of appears there are no movie licenses acquired here for whatever reason. Now, I've seen people suggest they couldn't afford it. Perhaps the licensing would skyrocket the costs of this figure. Could be. I've seen others surmise it was more profitable if Mattel didn't obtain the license. That makes sense too. But honestly, I personally have no idea, and I'm in no position to suggest that I do. But what I do know is Mattel went on record on Twitter why this main He-Man head sculpt looks the way it does, when a fan remarked that the figure doesn't resemble actor Dolph Lundgren. The official Masters of the Universe account said, quote, "This figure pays homage to the history of He-Man and draws inspiration from the unique details in the costume design of the 1987 Motu movie, but reimagines it with our classic He-Man in this role." Now, the only thing I find curious with this response is if reimagining the unique details of the 1987 movie's costume design on a classic He-Man is your goal, why wouldn't they have done the same thing with Skeletor? Why wouldn't Mattel have put that yellow skull on the movie-inspired Skeletor as well? And why does the cool artwork of He-Man by artist Eamon O'Donoghue on the box look like Dolph when your intention with the figure is not to look like Dolph? So it's a little perplexing, but I don't have the answers. But I do want to say I have nothing but love for people who love this figure. It is extremely well executed figure, independent of the movies. Mattel did a real nice job in that respect, and it even gets a lot of things right in regards to what fans saw in the 1987 film. And in my opinion, gets one thing better than the Super 7 figure counterpart, which is He-Man's fantastic cape. But overall, I'm going to say those critics were right. And I understand the complaints and find them to be well-founded, especially in today's market with today's technology, and figures are looking more and more like their movie's counterpart, not less. So that's it. I'm AJ. We'll see you next time.